Hello friends, this is Jim with Science Talk. Okay, all you doomsdayers out there, get out your popcorn, and I'm going to share with you 5 global catastrophes that could happen tomorrow and really cause a lot of headaches for humans. Okay, number 1 on the list, Indonesia's forgotten supervolcano. Most of us are aware of the Yellowstone supervolcano in the U.S. That's been well documented. It's actually rising. There's evidence the magma change is building up. Um, there was a television program some years ago. I think it was on the Nat Geo channel, National Geographic. I think how the Earth was formed, how the Earth was made, something like that. And there was an episode on there talking about Yellowstone and how I think it was 500,000, 600,000 years ago, it basically blew up and put enough ash in the atmosphere to cover the eastern U.S. with, I think, almost a meter or more of soot and ash. It's needless to say, all that stuff in the atmosphere cools the planet down a wee bit. So, if that Yellowstone was to go today, goodbye U.S., or at least Eastern U.S. But the Indonesian one, the Lake Toba supervolcano on the Indonesian island of Sumatra, is currently home to the largest volcanic lake on Earth. Formed 74,000 years ago when it last blew in the biggest eruption for 25 million years. It is estimated that around 2,800 cubic kilometers of volcanic ash and lava were thrown into the atmosphere. 12% more than was ejected by the last Yellowstone eruption. I'm corrected here. 2.2 million years ago. So that's when the Yellowstone supervolcano last blew significantly. And it may be about to erupt again. As with any super eruption, the vast quantities of ash and sulfur dioxide produced can have a devastating effect on the global climate. But a number of factors make the prospect of a Toba super eruption much more intimidating than one at Yellowstone. Toba is located on the densely populated island of Sumatra, home to over 50 million vulnerable people. It's only 40 kilometers from the Indian Ocean, where catastrophic tsunamis would certainly be generated. Of course, there was the earthquake in 2004 and the resulting tsunami. The earthquake, I think, has been measured at 9.8 on the Richter, if memory serves correctly. And it was powerful enough that Earth actually stopped rotating for a fraction of a second. Actually stopped rotating for a fraction of a second. Earth did. Earth literally had its bell rung. Maybe several nanoseconds, but it was measurable. And there's been recent reports of volcanic gases and heating of the ground surface. It may be waking up. The next one has been made a little more known in the news due to recent activities, and I am referring to the Helena slump. The Helena slump is on the big island of Hawaii. Okay. Why is this a problem? Because of the possible collapse of the southern portion of the Kilauea volcano on the big island of Hawaii. This is termed the Helena slump. This could drop 12,000 cubic kilometers, 12,000 cubic kilometers of rock into the Pacific Ocean. We know what that means. Here comes the tsunamis, and the huge tsunamis. Basically, you would get a mega tsunami that would propagate around the Pacific Ocean, reaching the western seaboard of North America in a matter of hours, flooding coastal communities. when the big 2004 Indonesian quake hit, uh, there were waves that went all planet wide, all the way up into the North Atlantic even. So you have this big pile of, huge 12,000 cubic kilometers of rock going into the ocean. Yeah, that's a lot of displacement. So there's that lovely thing. And with all the recent eruptions of Hawaii and lava, there's some activity, seismic activity. There are some geologists who are saying, Of course, the public stance is, oh no, nothing's going on, don't be frightened. But you don't know. So stay tuned. Continuing along with that one, there is evidence that a similar collapse at nearby Mauna Loa around 120,000 years ago generated a tsunami with a run-up height of over 400 meters. Even as recently as 1975, movement of the Helena slump generated a smaller yet destructive tsunami that reached California. Given that the slump is continually active and moving, and now being aggravated by the recent seismic activities, it might only take a jolt from an earthquake in this tectonically active area to set in motion this catastrophic chain of events. So if that weren't enough, number 3, the North Sea Tsunami. Seems like water's just going to wipe us out. The North Sea may seem an unlikely place for a devastating tsunami, but climate change has led to concern that a submarine landslide in the region might lead to just this. There is a precedent. Scientists have suggested over 6,000 years ago a sharp sea level rise attributed to a changing climate and a rapid melting of ice added weight to the submarine glacial deposits at the edge of the Norwegian continental shelf, destabilizing them and causing a 300-kilometer long landslide. 300 kilometers long. This generated a tsunami that reached heights of up to 20 meters in the Shetland Islands, 10 on the Norwegian coast, and 6 meters off the northern and western coast of Scotland. Should Earth experience such a rapidly warming climate again, experience the associated melting of the Greenland and/or West Antarctic ice sheet, a similar event might well be possible today, which would then affect the coastal populations of Scotland, Norway, and perhaps even London. Okay. Are we starting to feel insignificant? Of course humans are insignificant, although we're significantly changing the current climate. But in the scheme of things, planet Earth will do just as fine whether we're here or not. Number 4, the Cascadian Big One. Bottom of the Pacific Ocean, just off the west coast of North America and running from Northern California to Vancouver Island, is a subduction zone. This is where the Pacific Ocean floor is being forced beneath the North American plate, North American landmass. The rate of movement of the ocean floor is currently 4 centimeters a year, but the upper part of the system is currently stuck. That means pressure is building. And sooner or later that pressure is going to have to be released. And when it's released, that's when an earthquake happens. What's happening is that the North American plate is being compressed. Now, this compression will be released, and it may be in the form of an earthquake with a magnitude of around 9. Now remember, the Richter scale is a logarithmic scale, so it's not linear. So, from 4 to 5 is, about 10 times more energy. 4 to 6 is 100 times more energy, just in simple terms. If this were to happen, subsidence of the coastal region of up to 2 meters and possible horizontal displacement of 30 meters could happen. Shortly after the intense shaking subsides, the Ryling coastal community will be struck by a tsunami, that could dwarf that of the 2011 Japanese wave, the Japanese tsunami that hit the Fukushima facility. So 7 million people live in this region, from Vancouver to Seattle, Tacoma, Portland. What's the feasibility? Scientists have calculated in the last 10,000 years, the region has suffered 41 large earthquakes, occurring with an average interval 244 years. The last was a magnitude 9, 315 years ago. In other words, we're due. Now, this isn't in this region, but it's part of this ring of fire. In 1964, Alaska experienced what we call the Big Shake. And it actually happened on Good Friday. That's when an earthquake hit in the epicenter was in basically Prince William Sound. It was, I think it has now been put at 9.2. It's third or fourth largest earthquake ever recorded. The one in Indonesia in 2004 is the largest. It was a Chilean earthquake in the 70s. I forget what year exactly, and that was like around a 9.7. So you have the 9.8, 9.7, and the good shake, I think it's 9.2. Might actually be a little higher, but offhand I don't remember the numbers precisely. But it's up there as one of the most powerful earthquakes ever. It literally wiped the town of Valdez off the map, because Valdez was further located up in Prince William Sound, and basically it was a huge tsunami. If you ever look at Prince William Sound, it's ripe for just funneling water. When you have water moving out, and then it comes right back in. And yeah, there was some very tall waves that came in, wiped out the town of Valdez. Valdez has been rebuilt, but in a different location, just a little further down the road, if you will. You can actually still drive and see what remains of the original location of Valdez. In Anchorage, there are photos of, I think it's C Street, or 3rd Street, one of the downtown streets, opening up, and you're just literally looking meters and meters down into the earth. And the chasm that split open is literally meters and meters apart. Swallowed up vehicles and stuff like that. It was a nasty one to go through. A friend of mine who grew up in Anchorage witnessed. She was a child, but she witnessed the Big Shake, and she remembers her mother saying, "Okay, go around, shut off all the gas lines here and the neighbors." Smart thinking. So, yeah, big quake hit Alaska. Alaska's made up of so many micro-tectonic plates. We're always having some sort of a tumbler along the way. Anyway, that's why we have a seismology department at UAF. It's always measuring and monitoring earthquake activities, measuring the strength, pinpointing the epicenter, and so on. So that's the Cascadian big one that is due to happen. And the last one, not necessarily of this world, but it's happened before. A big rock tumbling out of the sky, an extraterrestrial threat. Now, sometimes, periodically, our own sun will shoot out solar flares, which can do some stuff to our magnetic fields, do stuff to our satellites, and so on and so forth. And, the solar flares, what are they? They're basically ionized gas, photons, other particles, lots of energy, millions of hydrogen bombs going off at once, equivalent to. And they typically take a day or two to make their way over to here, and, it won't be pleasant, if it's really a bad bombardment. And of course, I discussed with you before, electrical systems getting compromised and so on. But one of the largest known events was in 1921, which knocked out the U.S. Telegraph Service. Scientists calculate should a similar event happen in today's technology-reliant society, it could knock out many satellite systems, disabling global communications, the internet, and GPS. The intensity of solar flares varies on roughly 11-year cycle, and fortunately 2014 saw the most recent peak come and go without significant impact. So, can only hope something holds true in the future. And of course, there is always the threat of a rock tumbling out of the sky. There's the famous 1908 Tunguska Effect event, not effect, Tunguska event, that a meteor came streaking in. Fortunately, it came streaking in at a very shallow angle, and it basically exploded very close to the ground, but didn't impact the ground over Siberia. And the shock wave blew down a lot of trees all in the kind of the same direction. Had this thing come down 6 hours later, because the Earth rotates east to west, so here's Siberia. Had it come down 6 hours later, it would have nailed Europe. Probably would not have had World War I and then World War II. So that's, and then just recently, a year or two ago, the meteor over Chelyabinsk in over Russia. Well, Russia seems to attract them, doesn't it? Well, Russia has a very large landmass, but Chelyabinsk, yeah, that was, you know, they estimated that was about the size of, what did they say? It was about 6 meters across. The Tunguska was quite sizable. But look at the damage that the Chelyabinsk event did. The shock waves just, you know, broke a lot of windows. In fact, most of the injuries were the result of people getting cut from falling glass. So we have these, you know, tectonic activities, tsunamis, earthquakes, volcanoes on the planet. We have solar flares, asteroids, meteors from space. We're not exactly safe, are we? Anyway, just wanted to bring those to your attention, and basically, carpe diem, right? Thanks for your time. We'll talk later. Hey folks, just a reminder to please subscribe and click the bell so you know when I drop a video. Please share my videos. Please tell others of my channel and of the work that I do. I also hope that you will consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/Science Talk with Jim Massa, where from time to time I upload videos there exclusively for my patron subscribers. Details in the description box below. Thanks.